And certainly we couldn't make that claim tonight. Obviously, some positives early on. I think as much as anything, I look at it and I got to be better at the end. I think you probably looked at it, from the standpoint of expected maybe a little bit more of a passing fourth quarter and their willingness to run the football. So I got to point the finger back at myself. I don't think I did a good enough job in that regard, kind of assessing the situation.
So this is Alex Grinch talking after whipping Houston. They gave up 31. They gave a bunch of points late. He's still looking for his all 22 because the man doesn't think in terms of starters. He thinks in terms of 22 players that have to come through and play a lot of football for him. And while Lincoln refused, it seemed, to say that Kenneth Murray Jr. played a superlative game and wanted to give it more to the guys around him, and there's a lot to that because in the rewatch, joined by Bill Hastings, sports columnist, Tulsa World, nobody was in Kenneth Murray Jr.'s lap, right? So he was free to make plays. But I also remember Deshaun White saying out loud, yo, man, I have never felt such clean air playing linebacker behind this defensive line. Amazing what happens when you go from a 3-man to a 4-man front. Middle linebackers all of a sudden can go out there and make plays. But I wanted Lincoln to do what Alex Grinch said. What I wanted Lincoln to do what Alex Grinch did do, which was give praise to Kenneth Murray Jr. and say, hey, look, his quote was last night, the good Lord does not make him like that very often, and we got to use him. We want to go get a bunch more like him. But he also put his finger on that kid can play, and we're going to put him in positions to make plays.
His closing speed on the pressure play was
to Derek King?
Breathtaking. And it was breathtaking when I saw it live, and the replays I've seen since were just as impressive. More so, actually, from ground level. So, yeah, I mean, if there's more congestion up front, if there's more tie-ups up front, of course the linebackers should be freed up to make plays. So I thought Murray looked great the other night.
And I want to clear up a misconception, especially since, again, rewatched it. They're not catching blocks. They're not doing that. That was something they were taught to do under Mike, and people were going, hey, are they just catching blocks with a format? No, they're taught to split them and kill them. Okay? They want to disrupt. They want to get into the backfield. And you know what? You don't have time to get to the second level if you can't keep Neville Gallimore or Ronnie Perkins from trying to destroy Derek King. And by the way, that's the best athlete they're going to see at quarterback all year. All year. You're making a face.
No, I'm thinking. I mean,
Sanders.
Bedlam is an interesting athlete.
Sanders. Interesting athlete. You think Spencer Sanders is a better athlete than Derek King?
No.
So best athlete they're going to see all year.
But I saw him execute throws, but we're not talking about that. But I did see Sanders execute throws outside the numbers that I didn't expect to see.
Yes.
He was a little better in that regard.
He was much better throwing the football than he's been given credit for.
I would say Sanders is an exceptional quarterback athlete. Is he, if you scratch the word quarterback and just compare Spencer's athletic wherewithal to Derek King's, King is a better athlete. Absolutely.
Right. So in all of that, I thought the defense played well. They also didn't know what they were going to get because it's Dana Holgerson's first time calling plays for Houston. You knew what kind of offense he liked to run, but you didn't know what kind of wrinkles or what he wanted to do specifically. You knew that Derek King was going to be a handful. You were going to see some Kyle Porter. You're going to see a lot of Marquez Stevenson, and they did. But as he's continuing to try to figure out who's going to do what for him, I don't know which I am much more pissed about. That Lincoln and Jalen particularly don't want to necessarily embrace how cool it was for them to have the outing that they had, and all they want to do is talk about how they're going to get better, or that national folks are trying to tell us something that we've been knowing for a very long time, which is that the offense is fine. I'm pissed on both ends because I do believe that there's something to be said about people backing you to the wall, that you acknowledge that they backed you to the wall, and you can say stuff like, hey, our fans know, and we played well, and we want to do it for them. And then that's it. You don't have to say anything else. You don't have to say anything else.
You really shouldn't even say anything else.
And for you to say, we were sloppy, I get that there's some hard asses that really love that kind of conversation and they love that talk, but I'm not one of them. I want you to acknowledge that there are other people who are very much emotionally involved in what you're doing and how well you do it. And they wanted to see themselves vindicated. Give people a bone. And, and I think Gundy does this. Gundy does this actually more often than I give him credit for. He'll say, the people who back us up are the people that we play for. The kids that come to me and just do what I ask them to do, as hard as it is for them to do, I'm going to play them because loyalty is at the top of his agenda. And as a loyalist myself, right, I take that straight into the marrow. I just wish that was, it's not that Lincoln is in any way disloyal. It's that he's one-track minded on what he needs to do, just like Jalen Hurts. I need to win. Everything else is a distraction.
I haven't asked Mike this. I can always kind of tell who his favorite guys are, Mike Gundy. When he mentions players without being asked about players, and if he actually bothers to call them by name instead of a jersey number. That's not necessarily true because Ramon Richards was one of his all-time favorites, and he didn't call him by his name until his senior year.
He still calls Thailand, too.
Huh?
Still calls Thailand, too.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I bet you if I ask Mike next week.
He knew Micah Cooper's name.
Yeah.
I told that bit yesterday. Yeah, I think that's an example of what you're talking about.
Well, no doubt. But Micah Cooper, that's a hell of an anecdote, his going in there and working alone the way he did. And his
he had the details correct too. Like he wanted to tell that story.
Sure he did. But I was watching some cut-ups from Friday night, and Jelani Woods was recruited to play the quarterback position. Huge kid out of Atlanta, who had an offer, at least reportedly, from Michigan to go play at Michigan. And Michigan did a satellite camp at his high school. I know you remember it because you tracked that stuff. Jelani Woods got to Oklahoma State, and it was obvious he didn't have the footwork or really the arm to thrive at that position at this level. And Gundy just rolled it out to him. If you want to play here, let's make a switch. They moved him to cowboy back, essentially tight end. And I watched some cut-ups of his blocking Friday night. He played his guts out, and it was a thing of beauty on two of the bigger plays by Chuba Hubbard. Jelani Woods gets a helmet sticker for what he did on those plays.
I think so. That's also getting into Charlie Dickey, which you wrote about and I want to talk about. Or Frank wrote about, not you. Sorry.
But think about it though, RJ. I mean, you've played the quarterback position your whole life. You're recruited by Michigan and others at the highest level of FBS football, and then you get to Oklahoma State, and the coach says, "Yeah, I want you to move to a tight end. We might target you 10 times this season. Otherwise, we're just asking you to seal the edge and let Chuba Hubbard run and get all the glory." And Jelani Woods has done that and is good at it.
I did that bit earlier with Rashawn Johnson asking to play running back and taking it up because he's a quarterback. He's their 2019 signee, and I get that quarterback's different than other positions, but David Pollock is a great story in that regard. He was signed to play fullback at Georgia. He's a fullback. He wanted to play fullback. He was a good enough fullback back when that was still a very significant position in football. But they were decimated on the defensive line. And they asked a dude that had played fullback to play defensive tackle. And he said, "I want to play football, and if that gets me on the field, guys, I know you got a fullback in front of me, I'll go play." And turned into an All-American defensive end. Okay?
Right.
So, it's not necessarily unprecedented, but does speak to the kind of head that you have to be able to change your mindset and to do something that you did not necessarily sign up to do. And you have to trust somebody else's evaluation of you as a person in their system, no matter what the system might be.
Well, I mean, these are proud guys who, in most cases, were the best player on their team. You got to swallow some pride.
You're doing my show. No. This has been the theme all day. Yeah,
I was listening.
No, right, and that's. I wondered who hasn't had to have that conversation, because I thought at one point Tylen was going to have that conversation. Like early on before last year, who thought Tylen Waddle was going to be this dude? I mean, honestly, Watching him come out of Dallas, did you expect Tylan Wallace to be basically what I thought Jordan McRae might turn into, or AJ might?
All
turn
I
into?
knew was what I'd read about Tylan Wallace, and I remembered in the I can't remember. Oh, it was ESPN.
Okay.
I had Ellinger 19th overall out of the state of Texas, regardless of position, in that class.
Okay.
And Tylan was 20.
Right.
And so I'm thinking, well, he's a top 20 guy in Texas. He's out of the Metroplex. And then the first time I laid eyes on him in Stillwater, he's not very big.
No.
He's listed at 6 feet.
Yes. He
I
might be
don't-
5'10".
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking, but you're talking about in 09, Blackman, and I was there every day in 09. I mean, I was allowed to go to practice.
I don't know what that means.
I
man.
that whole concept is a dinosaur.
I was about to say, I don't know what you're talking about.
but Blackman, as great as Blackman became, I'm watching practice every day, and I don't see any of that. But obviously, the marriage of Blackman and Whedon, both those guys made a lot of money because of time and place, coming together for 2010, blowing up the way they did. But Blackman had 20 catches in 09 as a redshirt freshman. He had 122 as a sophomore in Dana's offense. And that's one reason, too, and you alluded to this, but Dana, look out for Dana in 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
In that league, in the American, come on.
Yeah, and to that end, look out for, I want to say 4 teams in the American. Sadly, one of them ain't TU.